Scared wolf cubs saved by woman. Years later, it shocks you how they return the favor. It can be simple to confuse wolf cubs and some breeds of dog puppies at times because of how similar the two can be. Exactly what the woman in this article did was that. But years later, in the most incredible way, they paid her generosity back for how well she looked after them. To know the complete story, continue watching. The incident in the narrative took place decades ago in a small Russian hamlet. Maria had lived in the hamlet her entire life. She was born there, raised there with her mother and father, and when she was old enough, she began her own family with a guy named Ivan. As time passed and Sophia grew older, she eventually found a man who she fell in love with. Sophia and Ivan were very in love with one another and eventually decided that they wanted to have a child of their own. Soon after, Sophia was born, a beautiful baby girl they named Sophia. The family was happy for many years. When their daughter started her own life, Maria and Ivan were happy for her and encouraged her not to worry about them. However, a few years later, Ivan fell ill, and after 40 years of marriage, he tragically passed away, leaving Maria to fend for herself. Because of her husband's job, a very significant one in the banking industry, and the need to live closer to the city, Sophia was forced to relocate away from her parents. Maria initially refused to move in with Sophia and her husband because she didn't want to leave the village she had called home for her entire life. Fortunately, even though she was now living on her own, there were still people in the village willing to assist her because she had been a much-loved teacher at a local school during her younger years. When she was employed, a man named Dmitri had been one of her students. He regularly checked on the elderly woman to make sure she was okay and would gladly fix anything around the house as he was a bit of a handyman. Dmitri also liked to go hunting. He frequently hiked into the adjacent forest to look for a suitable game to hunt, and he occasionally gave Maria the meat from his kills. One day, Maria noticed that the fence enclosing her garden was in need of a repair. Dmitri, a kind man, agreed but informed the elderly woman that he also had a surprise for her. When Dmitri arrived at Maria's home, she quickly noticed what the surprise was. A hunter was carrying 4 tiny puppies. Dmitri informed Maria that he had discovered the puppies in the forest all by themselves with no sign of their mother. After getting over her shock, Maria agreed to take the puppies in herself because she had always been wanting a puppy for a while to keep her company, and she could save these 4 abandoned babies. Dmitri then explained that while he would be happy to look after them himself, he already had 2 other dogs at home that wouldn't be too welcoming to the tiny canines. The elderly woman quickly found 4 old bowls that he used to feed the animals and emptied a can of meat into each bowl. The puppies were happy to quickly eat the food, but because they were growing animals and wild ones, unbeknownst to Maria, the puppies stared at the elderly woman as if asking for more food. When the cubs were finally satisfied, Maria grinned and happily indulged them. The young animals felt content. When the pups were asleep, Maria left them in the home and went back outside to thank Dmitri for discovering the gorgeous puppies. She then laid down some old blankets for them and they promptly fell asleep in their new beds. While Dmitri was aware that Maria thought the puppies were dogs, he reasoned that they wouldn't hurt them while they were still small and that he can find a good replacement for when the cubs were strong enough to survive on their own. Later that evening, as Dmitri completed his work on the fence, Maria went to thank him for his hard work and for always being there to assist her. She then gave the generous man a bag of candy to give to his kids before wishing him good night. When Dmitri left, Maria went back inside her house and found that all the 4 cubs were awake and making a lot of mess. "I'm still filled with happiness after meeting some new people." Maria cleaned up the mess and then realized that she needed to give the 4 cubs names after she discovered she couldn't stay upset at them for very long. Teddy, Rascal, Storm, and Mischief. As the cubs grew older, Maria started to think they weren't typical dogs because of their larger size, sharper fangs, and overall wilder appearance. In addition, every dog in the neighborhood would growl and bark at Teddy and the other cubs whenever they passed. When a local hunter saw the 4 dogs playing together in her garden, and happened to be walking by, he immediately reached for his gun but was stopped when Maria asked him what he was doing. The hunter then informed the elderly woman that the 4 animals she was holding were actually wolves rather than dogs. Even though she was astonished by the news, Maria wasn't terrified because she had always loved her puppies equally, and they had never once acted aggressively against her. Therefore, she wasn't concerned that they would hurt her. For the following year, Maria and the 4 wolves lived peacefully together. When October arrived and temperatures dropped, Maria and the wolves would joyfully spend their days inside the warm house. However, one chilly fall evening, she heard a knock at the door and wondered who it might be. The canines were loyal to Maria and defended the home much like a dog would. When the old woman opened the door, 3 odd males appeared and approached her. The 3 guys stormed into Maria's home and started to move further inside when they suddenly heard 4 loud growls. One of the men was holding a revolver, which he aimed at Maria, threatening to shoot her if she didn't hand up all of her money and belongings that she had in her home. The 4 wolves that had been sleeping in the living room were awakened by the men's noise, and when they realized that Maria was in danger, they acted quickly. While the men were baffled and terrified by what was happening, Mischief, Rascal, and Storm jumped at them and bit their legs and ankles, while Teddy ran over to Maria and jumped in front of her to protect her from the gunman. While the wolves battled, the elderly woman crept into her bedroom and dialed 911. As she was finishing up, a gunshot rang out throughout the house, followed by an animal's cries. When one of the men managed to get the gun and hurt Teddy, who was terrified by the noise of the weapon, Maria sprinted back into the living room and found him crouched on the floor with a bullet wound in his hind leg. The 3 men attempted to flee, but as they emerged from the house, they were met by police. They were quickly taken into custody, but Maria paid them no mind because she was too busy tending to Teddy. Thankfully, she was able to get him some help, and over the following few weeks, word of the 4 wolves' bravery spread. However, for Maria, their new fame didn't matter because she loved them just like she would any other dog, and they were all well liked. With this, we conclude our video. We appreciate you helping us keep it going by watching. The best way to support our channel is to watch another episode. Thank you for tuning in. To ensure that you never miss an episode, please subscribe to our channel and watch out for our next video. Until then, I'll see you next time. Take care and goodbye.